Gamers, today we got another video. The EGC Finals Tournament has just concluded, it has just ended, and I am here to talk about the win rates in the tournament and the win rates on the ladder. Oh, right there. I just gave you a little tease. So, let's talk about it. There's a couple of civs that are like up there and down there. And there's a lot of civs that are kind of in the middle of all of it. China, 75% win rate, 3-1. Obviously, a lot of these, the sample sizes are pretty small, like it's only a few games. So it's not like, oh my god, it's 75% win rate, it's broken. China was probably played only on, it's played on 4 legs 3 times and it went 3-0. So even though it has a high win rate, it's at the top level, it's probably not one of the good civs unless you play like 4 legs or Holy Island or something like that, some of the more unique maps. You have English with 55%. Not banned at all, by the way. China nor English. Played 11 times, so it did get some peak rate. It was played on land maps, it was played on hybrid maps, did okay. Delhi, who one time Core said was the most OP broken civilization at 52% win rate, played 21 times, and that is the most played civ together with Rus. So Delhi has been played a lot, and I do think it's a very, very strong civ. Probably a lot better than the civ win rate suggests. We got Ayyubids with 47%. Now, Ayyubid, there was a patch mid-tournament that changed some things, so I think it's hard to pull a lot from it. Byzantines, we did not get to see a lot. Abbasid went 1-4. The reason I think why Byzantines and Abbasid haven't done as good, or China, except 4 legs, is because the current meta in the tournament, as always, is very, very aggressive. Like very much instant feudal attacking, instant aggression, or like some rush castle builds into instant all-ins kind of thing. And Abbasid is just a lot of a, slower civ. And some of the people that played Byzantines in the tournament played it in a lot more like macro way, which did not end up working out. Wait, are my stats wrong? How's that possible? You didn't count mirrors? Oh, right. I mean, whatever. Next one is French, and this is a big one. So, French has been picked 0 times. Now, why is this? Is it because French is awful? Is it because JD is, a lot of people like to call it, just better French? I think it's neither of those. I think the answer is really like simple once you look at the maps. The only maps that you could play French was probably like Dry Arabia, Gorge, and that's probably it. Like maybe Hillendale. Now, what is the problem with that? The problem with that is, while those are great maps for French, that's true, the civs that are played on those maps are all the civs that usually do really well against French. The #1 counter to French probably is Malian, and Malian is played on those maps. Another civ that beats French pretty badly and that's also played on those maps is actually Ottoman, which also beats French pretty bad. French beats civs such as, English. It beats civs such as HRE. It beats like any civ that's like somewhat passive where French can get map control and kind of dominate, or that doesn't want to fight in feudal. French is great for that. But civs that hard counter French are not really something you want to play French into. Now the problem is that the civs that the French counters are not played on these maps because you want to play them on the hybrid maps, you want to play them on, some of the other maps. So I think there's that. I don't think the French is necessarily terrible. I don't think it's the worst civ. I just think that the maps that French can be played on are not very good for French at the same time because of the matchups you will get. One thing to consider, I think French is actually decent into Delhi, and I think that French is decent into Jeanne d'Arc, and if I had to pick which one I would play, Jeanne d'Arc or French in that matchup, I would probably go with French, because it's very hard for Jeanne d'Arc to get any XP because French can just make knights, which you can, if you micro, you're not going to lose them. But I think it is a bit more unfortunate. I do think that if you had a map pool of like 7 land maps, you would probably see French more. But because we only have like true 2-3 like land maps that are like pure land maps without any, you know, like walls, natural walls and stuff like that, they're just better choices than French, and that's kind of how it works. Now Mongol is an interesting one, 4-1, and you might be like, well, that's not a lot of games played. That's right, that's not a lot of games played. Mongol has 23 bans and is by more than double the most banned civilization. So you might wonder, well, does this mean that Mongol is the best civ? No. There's a very specific reason why Mongol is banned, and the reason Mongol is banned is because Mongol is very oppressive on very few maps, to the point where it's like you either gotta have some kind of specific response or you have to ban it. You can't really play normally against it. And those maps are Canal, those maps are Hill and Dale is also pretty good for Mongol, Himayama is pretty good for Mongol, Prairie is pretty good for Mongol, Rocky River is pretty good for Mongol. And this is the problem. When you're playing a best of 5 or a best of 7, if I played Canal, Cliffside, Dry Arabia, Gorge, and 4 Lakes, right? And I'm like, okay, well, the opponent's gonna pick Mongol on Canal, I can play around it. The problem is Mongol is so oppressive on like 4 different maps, and you might have 4 of those out of 7 maps in your best of 7, that you don't know where the opponent is going to pick Mongol. And because you need a specific response, you're not going to know when to pick that response for Mongol. If that's the case, people just choose to rather not play against it. Mongol can also be played on the land maps, by the way. So Mongol can also be played on Gorge, which we've seen. It can be played on Cliffside, Dry Arabia. So it's too much of a wild card, and it also has so many purposes in the tournament that the civs that usually get banned out are civs that are played everywhere or almost everywhere, or specifically counter like a lot of civs on like few maps, right? That's kind of what Mongol is. So it's not necessarily the most broken civ, it's just too good all around, and it's too good of a pick in a tournament. Now, if you had no bans and people were allowed to play every civ, Mongol would, because like if it was on land maps, Mongol would not even be in top 6-7 in win rates, but because hybrid maps are included, Mongol would probably be pretty good up there. If we go down, HRE, for example, is 5-2, but again, we'll look into the player win rates in a little bit. So again, does this mean HRE is really good? HRE was played on very few maps, you know, and it was never banned, so take that as you will. Jushi's Legacy, 5-3, but it has received 9 bans. So people were banning out Jushi's Legacy, very strong civ. Japanese 8-7 with 11 bans. Now, the only reason why Japanese was banned is also because of hybrid maps. So, a lot of the banning in the tournament was Mongol plus Japanese bans. Because if you played a match and you had like 3-4 water maps, you ban Japanese, you ban Mongols, and the opponent has 2 of the best civs on those maps out. So then you can pick something else, you can strategize, you can plan your drafts around that, which is very nice. Jeanne d'Arc, despite popular belief that it's unbeatable, it has a win rate of 9-8. It was banned out twice. Then we have Rus, which actually has a negative win rate, funnily enough. Now, Rus is very similar to Mongol. It has 10 bans, as you guys can see right there. Rus can be played on every map, and that's what makes Rus a great tournament civilization. Same as Ottomans, same as Mongol. They can be played anywhere, they are played everywhere, so it has a lot of versatility, and that's why you see it being played so many times. I don't think it's necessarily an OP civ. It's less oppressive than Mongol, but very versatile and really good, even though it has 47% win rate. Then you have Ottoman. Everything I just said for Rus counts for them, except they can't be played on like 4 lakes, but they can be played on hybrid maps. And then you have Malians, which has been banned 5 times, but actually has a pretty bad win rate, 6-10. For a civ that was very recently just perma-banned, did not do too great, And then last but not least, we got OOTD with 0 and 2. That clearly did not work out. So if you look at the map split for the civilizations, you have more information. So you can see Abbasid was kind of played here and there, not on the same map, did not do too great. Ayyubid was played on a lot of the maps, did all right. Byzantine was tried, not really too much gameplay. Again, China has 3-1 win rate, but all the 3 wins were on 4 lakes and 2 of the 3 wins were mine. Then you have Delhi, which was played on Hillendale, Canal ones, Rocky River, Dry Arabia, and Gorge. So you can see that it was played on 5 different maps, which makes it a very picked civ because it has a lot of, you know, options to go for. You see English with quite a few maps, French 0. HRE was played on Prairie 4 times, 2 times on Canal, and 1 time on Hillendale. Japanese, again, very hybrid focus. We haven't seen a single game of Japanese on land map. It was on Canal, which is a hybrid map, 4 Lakes, which is a hybrid map, and then Rocky River, which is also a hybrid map. Jeanne d'Arc 4-2 on Gorge, Dry Arabia, Rocky River. So mostly open maps, land maps, you know, not really played anywhere else. We see Malian played on like 2 maps the most, then some on Prairie 2. Mongol played on Rocky River 3 times, but did not get a lot of plays. OTD did not do too great. Ottoman, then you see Rus kind of being played on a lot of the maps. It's 0 and 4 on 4 lakes. That's actually pretty funny. And then Jushi's Legacy, you can kind of see it being played the most on like the more camp maps. And then you have the win rate of the players for the whole tournament. If you don't know, by the way, if you maybe tuned in too late on Twitch or didn't watch the YouTube videos, I ended up winning that tournament, so I have the most wins. I don't know if this is updated. So if you look specifically for players, like 2 of the 3 wins for China are mine. What was it? How many HRE wins? HRE had 5-2, and I had, which is 7 games. Out of 7 games, 4 HRE games are mine. Then Jeanne d'Arc was, win rate is 9 and 8, and 4 of those wins are mine, right? So that's why, like I said, the sample is not the biggest, so some of the win rates might be skewed a little bit. And if you look, Jeanne d'Arc across all the players, Lucifron has 3 wins, I have 4 wins, and then Poppy and Vortex have 1 win each, and then it's pretty bad after that. So Jeanne d'Arc win rate in the tournament got carried by Lucifron and I pretty hard. Other than that, did not do too great. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to look at. Abbasid, again, not getting a lot of plays. Marine Lord is still on that Abbasid hype, but other people not so much. I think it's just part of the meta. The meta is a lot more aggressive, a lot more attacking, and less so booming, because the opponent takes the whole map and you kind of get dented in that. So let's look at the interesting thing, which I know you guys love, is the ladder win rates. Jeanne d'Arc win rate has gone down. Now, I know some people are gonna say, yo, that's because they nerfed the boar XP. That has nothing to do with that. The reason Jeanne d'Arc's win rate went down is because people are learning how to play against the Civ. I've said this in the last video that I predicted this in. I think that over time, as time passes, Jeanne d'Arc's win rate will go down naturally because it's a very specific Civ and people will get to learn how to play it against more and more. So let's look at, these are the overall win rates. Another thing that you hear very often is OOTD is unplayable. No one can get a win, and OOTD has almost 51% win rate. The Ayyubid win rate went down quite a bit after the recent nerfs. And then we see civs like Byzantines. I think it had 43% win rate, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it wasn't overall, but it is going up. And Rus is actually one of the lowest win rate civs, which is kind of funny. So, rank level. Let's look. Gold. Twitch chat rank. 54%. In the last patch, JD win rate was 55.3. And Ayyubid was even higher than that. So, the win rate is going down. And you can see OOTD is 5th highest win rate civ. And before OOTD, even like the moment the civs came out, I said this, OOTD will probably have a high win rate in lower leagues. As it climbs up, it's probably going to have less and less win rate, which is now happening. Byzantines, again, Gold League, 47.5% win rate, which is not good, right? But plus 2.5 minus 2.5% on win rates is pretty balanced. Next one is going to be Platinum. Platinum, JD's rank goes down even more, and part of Ottoman's win rate is probably because they're farming JD pretty badly. But you can see that the win rates of OOTD are now sinking down. Japanese not doing too hot, but Jeanne d'Arc is at 54%, up or down from 56. So it's happening. Diamond League, we'll check. Ottoman and Jeanne d'Arc still at the top. I'm kind of surprised that Ottoman is that high up in like every league. And OOTD is now 4th lowest, with Byzantines sinking in a little bit more. And Japanese just plummeting right now. And then Conqueror, we do see JD at 55.4. Now we do see like way less games than normal. But you might be wondering, right, if you look at this, you might be like, wait, why is Japanese the lowest rated in Conqueror, but it is 2nd most banned in a tournament? How does that happen? That happens because the difference between a Conqueror player and a pro player is 1,000 elo, which is quite a lot. It's like a difference between a Conqueror and a bronze player. And then we have Conqueror 4, which is 1.7k and above, if I remember correctly. And we do see, again, not too many games. I mean, English is at 56%, French not played too much, Japanese still low. So even when you compare 1.7k Conqueror Plus, which is like Conqueror 4, Japanese has under 40% win rate. Malians not doing too great. Byzantines is at 50% win rate. So what can I extract out of this? What does this mean? I think that JD win rate is still probably too high, but I do think it will go down, especially after I get some videos going, help you guys how to counter and how to deal with it. I think people will have a lot better understanding in how to deal with Jeanne d'Arc, especially because we have a lot of tournaments games we can use to kind of pinpoint and show what you can do and all the mistakes and all of that. But regarding Japanese having low win rate, I think Japanese is okay on land maps. There are a lot better civs on land, but Japanese on hybrid maps is definitely strongest or 2nd strongest civilization in the game. But most people on the ladder, they tend to veto the hybrid maps and they just play land maps, and that's where Japanese is probably not the best. So I don't really know how you buff Japanese on land without messing up, you know, making them more broken on water. Who knows? It's funny to me how Ottoman is just consistently high throughout all the leagues, but there's no changes made to it. For some reason, no one's really complaining about Ottoman. But yeah, we see Jushi's legacy is also climbing. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the win rates develop. But overall, I think that Byzantines is going up slowly. Rus went down quite a bit. OOTD has increased in lower leagues. JD is going down. Ottoman is remaining the same. So also Ayyubids was like 57% almost, I think, and now it's 52. So things are balancing out. We'll see what whenever the next patch is. I wonder what they're gonna do regarding balance. If they're gonna nerf these things or if they're gonna leave them open. Who the fuck knows? But that's kind of it. I wanted to discuss like the main issues of, is JD overpowered? Is Mongol OP because it's getting banned so much? And I got asked in my Twitch chat. I'm a bit sad for French. Like I feel like French is not that bad. I think it just overlaps maybe with some of the other civ. Like if you're gonna play Night Civ on a land map, I would rather take Rus. You're safer with Rus, but it doesn't mean that French is bad. It just how the matchups work. If you're watching this on YouTube, I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Twitch gamers, let's keep going.